اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به، وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء، فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصيي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء، ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء، فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم، وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلكا يسري، إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فحبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام، ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلكا يسري، إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء، فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. सहरा में जो परी हुई धूले की लाश है टुकड़े बता रहे हैं कि कासिम की लाश है। सहरा में जो परी हुई पामाल ज़ुल्म हो गया कैसे हसन का लाल पामाल ज़ुल्म हो गया कैसे हसन का लाल गठरी में से उठाए हुए कासिम की लाश है टुकड़े बता रहे हैं कि कासिम की लाश है। बाली सकीना रोती है मैं दिलिए हुए बाली सकीना रोती है मैं दिलिए हुए रंगीन खून में है परी दूल्हे की लाश है टुकड़े बता रहे लाश है। फरवाए बोली देख के बेटे की लाश को, फरवाए बोली देख के बेटे की लाश को, चांद कोई दूल्हा नहाता लहू में है, टुकड़े बता रहे हैं कि कासिम की लाश है। फरवा के बैन थे मेरे कासिम, कहाँ हो तुम, फरवा के बैन थे मेरे कासिम, कहाँ हो तुम, जालिम ने सर से खींच ली चादर, दुहाई है, टुकड़े बता रहे हैं कि कासिम की लाश है। सहरा में जो परी हुई दूल्हे की लाश है, टुकड़े बता रहे हैं कि कासिम की लाश है। मोहम्मद व आल मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु।
करबला दी रेत ते दम तोड़दा शबीर सी, करबला दी रेत ते दम तोड़दा शबीर सी, करबला दी रेत ते दम तोड़दा शबीर सी, बिस्मिल्लाह पढ़ दी सी माँ, बिस्मिल्लाह पढ़ दी सी माँ, जद सीने लग दे तीर सी, करबला दी रेत ते दम तोड़दा शबीर सी, जालिमो दुनिया तो असगर खुशबुलिया ले गया, जालिमो दुनिया तो असगर खुशबुलिया ले गया, प्यास लो नल रज बुझा हुर्मला दे तीर सी, करबला दी रेत ते दम तोड़दा शबीर सी, मारे आ सदके ज़ालिमा शबीर नू मारिया परदेस सदके ज़ालिमा शबीर नू आके बहन की मेरे चनवीर दी तकसीर सी करबला दी रेत ते दम तोड़दा शबीर सी खुले सिर ते पाके खाकां बार आया बीबियां खुले सिर ते पाके खाकां बार आया बीबियां सजदे ओ जद उठ ना सके या देर तक शबीर सी करबला दी रेत ते दम तोड़दा शबीर सी कोई अकबर नू उड़ीके लाड़े कासिम नू कोई अकबर नू उड़ीके लाड़े कासिम नू कोई बहन पई झूले नुवे के थे मेरा वीर सी करबला दी रेत ते दम तोड़दा शबीर सी हुण मिटा सकदा नहीं को ई खुदा दे दीन नू हुण मिटा सकदा नहीं को ई खुदा दे दीन नू लिख दिती शबीर अपने खून नल तहरीर सी करबला दी रेत ते दम तोड़दा शबीर सी बिस्मिल्लाह पढ़ दी सी मां बिस्मिल्लाह पढ़ दी सी मां जद सीने लग दे तीर सी करबला दी रेत ते दम तोड़दा शबीर सी मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Brother, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Asant, the usual announcements, please park your cars responsibly, do not block neighbors' driveways, leave quietly so as not to disturb the neighbors. In fact, yesterday we had, the authorities here had complaints from the neighbors that people are gathering on the corner of Briar Road and North Approach and talking loudly, disturbing the neighbors at 1 a.m. in the morning. Brothers, it's school days. Please let us be mindful of our akhlaq, while attending these majlises. Even talking outside the center after majlis, the sound travels down. So, and it disturbs the neighbors. So the volunteers will politely ask you to, leave the car park area after you've finished here and go to your cars straight away, inshallah. Unfortunately, there are not many people here to listen to this. Inshallah, we try and get the message to them by telling them when they're here. The other thing is, please dispose of your empty bottles and teacups and everything responsibly. If you're having your tea whilst going to your car, then take the empty cups with you. Don't litter the streets, and be mindful of the neighbors. For those who would like to partake in sponsoring the Tabarruk and running costs, please speak to one of the volunteers. And may I request you to recite Surah Fatiha for Ukera family, Asaria and Karawalli families, Marhum Abbas Bandali, Marhum Muhammad Bandali, Marhum Nazim Bhai Ali Muhammad, Marhum Muhammad Raza Lakha, Marhum Riaz Hussain Rajbali, Marhum Riaz Anwar Rajbali, Marhum Fazal Virani, and all our Marhumin. Al-Fatiha. Please join me in welcoming Sheikh Ibraheim Ansari with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And the second salawat for the love of Imam Al and Hussein. And the third and final salawat for the love of Fatima Zahra with the loudest of your voices. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك الطاهرين. ما خاب من تمسك بكم، أمن من لجأ إلى حصنكم سادتي. سيدي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة، ويا باب نجاة الأمة، غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء، بأبي وأمي من ذبح من القفا، بأبي وأمي من ذبح عطشانا. يا ابن شبيب إن جده الحسين قتل عطشانا غريب، تركوه في العرى دامي الجسم السليب يا ابن الشبيب إن يوم الحسين أقرح جفوننا يا أسبل دموعنا ذل عزيزنا سيدي يا أبا عبد الله يا ليتنا يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الذي يراك حين تقوم وتقلبك في الساجدين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Enlighten this majlis and bless this gathering with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Yesterday, we spoke about the rights of the spouses, and we looked at the verse in which Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned that Allah, one of the signs that draw you closer to Allah Azza wa Jal in understanding Allah's existence is that the fact that He created from amongst ourselves pairs, and we looked at what this actually means. Then we looked at 3 specific things that Allah Azza wa Jal allowed to be of His signs within those pairs, and that is that there is stability, that there is mawadda, which we said is love with action, and that there is mercy. And after understanding all of that and understanding that which should be the foundation and the basis of the human family, we looked at the jurisprudential rights that are mentioned in our fiqh books, and then we looked at if there are more rights that follow from that, especially rights that when we come jurisprudential and we say this is halal, this is haram, means when you do something haram you're deserving of punishment. What about those rights that go further? And we saw that within them there are rights that both spouses are deserving of that could potentially also lead to one sort of punishment. And we mentioned that the most easy of examples of them is the fact that a spouse needs to be kind towards their other spouse, and that there shouldn't be harshness within the family. And we mentioned the other rights. Today, I aim to talk about a aqaidi topic. I aim to talk in regards to a creedal topic. From day one, I promised those that during the 10 nights, I will give you a good variety between historical topics, between jurisprudential topics, and now is the turn for an aqaidi topic. And I know for a fact that many times, just like when we pick and choose with certain fiqh topics that we want to hear, likewise it is the same with aqaidi topics, especially that I believe there are specific aqaidi topics that are forgotten. Why did they become forgotten? Because we thought that they mean nothing to us. We thought that they don't really affect our aqeedah, they don't really affect our belief. And I believe quite the opposite. I believe that there is a lot of aqaidi topics that should be discussed and should be discussed in more depth for multiple reasons. I will pose the question I have for today's topic, inshallah, and I will tell you why it is important. The question for today's topic is, were the parents of the Prophet disbelievers? Now you might come and say, Ibrahim, this is not going to change my life. And I will tell you, it will. It will on many different levels. And as we go through the proofs that I have prepared on this specific topic, you'll realize how a belief in such a thing could even affect your belief in the prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. I know we have reached the eve of the 7th, and I know you are tired, and I know it's Monday, you've all just gone back to work today, but the salawat inshallah should be much louder than that, as the one who raises their voice in salawat, Allah removes arrogance from their heart. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. May Allah bless you, inshallah. So even if we are of the opinion that I already know the answer to this, and the simple answer to it, you all know. If I was to ask you now, were the parents of the Prophet disbelievers? You're all saying no. Why no? This is where we're going to start staring at the wall. This is an issue. This is a problem. The problem is that many times when you have a specific aqeedah, you need to know how you want to defend it. And even if you already know how to defend it, sometimes when you hear something regarding the aqeedah or you read something regarding the aqeedah, what ends up happening, either it strengthens your aqeedah in that specific thing, or it will teach you something new. And that is why the scholars who have studied for centuries and centuries and centuries, every time a new book has been published in regards to an aqaidi matter, do you think they say, we already know this, we've written a book ourselves, or do you think they open the new books to see what has been written in them? And this is the reality of our scholars, and this is the reality of tashayyu', and that is why tashayyu', you see within its scholarship, there's always so much advancement, because the scholars are always up to date, the scholars are always identifying new logical explanations, new explanations from the Quran. When I say new explanations from the Quran, it doesn't mean that such a verse wasn't present before, but maybe it wasn't looked at in that specific light. So therefore you find that the requirement for advancement in someone's aqeedah is a constant requirement. For at the end of the day, you have a wajib of taqleed when it comes to fiqh, but you have a wajib of knowing your aqeedah within your heart without the reliance on, for example, my aqeedah is that. I'm not saying don't rely on scholars. No, rely on scholars to learn your aqeedah. But don't say I am on the taqleed of this scholar on aqeedah. What does that scholar even believe? You don't know. Therefore, you need to understand that every part of your aqeedah plays an essential role within your life. Your aqeedah ultimately is what forms this heart of yours that ends up accepting the fiqh that comes. This is one of the topics that I truly believe is very important. Why? Because you have individuals who also claim to love Rasulullah, who said that the parents of the Prophet are either disbelievers, or they said that it is not obligatory maybe is not the right word, necessary is the correct word. It is not necessary for the parents of the prophets to be what? To be believers. And therefore, I wanted to look at this topic from three different angles. The first angle is from the historical angle. The second is to look at our logical proofs. And finally, to look at our textual proofs when it comes to this specific matter. And I shall do that with your permission and with the blessings of Allah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Historically, I don't aim to prove the iman of Abdullah or Amina through history. But what I do aim to do is to show the possibility of their iman. In what sense? When we look at our history, we understand that from the time of Adam up until today, and it will continue inshallah, there is always a caller that calls towards La ilaha illallah. What do I want from such a statement? What I want from this statement is I want to understand that there is always a caller that calls towards believing in one Lord, always calling towards monotheism, and a caller that is always calling, rightly guiding towards the Almighty according to how He wanted people to be guided to Him. This is the first aspect. This is what many times we struggle to understand, especially when we look at the region of Arabia during the time of Rasulullah and the time before Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. We are under the assumption that the people of Arabia were all what? Were all mushrikeen. We are under the assumption that the people of Arabia are all people who are what? Kafir. This is a very wrong assumption. And the most simple of examples to give you is that there are previous religions that 1,000,000% were established within that region, and no one differs in that. Where do you think the Christians of Najran came when they wanted to debate the Holy Prophet? They came from Mars. They lived within Arabia. Where do you think the Jewish community were? The ones that were there in Khaybar and the ones that were in Fedek and the ones... Where is all these areas? Was that not in Arabia? Was that not in surrounding Mecca and Medina and the other areas around it, between even all the way that you extend to Sham? So therefore you find that within Arabia, there were actually religions that were already established. And of those, for example, religions, let's call them, that were established was the religion of the Ahnaf, those who believed in the message of Ibrahim alayhi wa ala nabiyyina wa alihi afdhalu salati wassalam. We know for a fact that such individuals were present. This is from a historical point of view only. I'm not here to prove to you through ruwayat, because history has shown you that such people were there. If I can understand such a point, I now know for a fact that not every single person that lived at that time is a polytheist. What kind of proof are we using? And what kind of bias are we using when we want to come and make someone kafir or a polytheist out of God knows what, based on the fact that that area there were polytheists? A few nights ago, we discussed the life of Abu Dharr al-Ghifari. And you remember that during that time, in the introduction, when I spoke about his biography, I mentioned that it is an agreement between the Sunnis and the Shias. And there is no scholar that has debated this or rejected this, that Abu Dharr al-Ghifari never prostrated to an idol. Did we not mention this? Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, where did he live? Where did he live? Was he not in Arabia? Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, you have accepted two things about him. And this is talking about the Sunni sources. Number one, you have accepted that he never prostrated to an idol. And number two, you have accepted that he has never drunk alcohol in his life. But when it comes to the parents of the prophets, even thinking of a possibility is difficult. How and why? The fact that Abu Dharr al-Ghifari could have such logic means anyone else within that area could have also had some logic. Does anyone disagree? Therefore, at least all I want to say, as a possibility, there is a possibility that the parents of the prophets were not polytheists. As a possibility. In fact, we have... Actually, let me put a challenge out there. The challenge is the following. Find one historical report. And when I say history, that is broader than narrations. Because narrations, I'm going to come and talk to you about Isnad. I might talk to you about which book it came from, who narrated it, under what context it was narrated. We'll go into a deep discussion. Leave that. That's not what I want. I want any historical report. Any historical report. Be it a narration where it goes back to a ma'soom, or be it something that anyone mentioned, or be it a book that wrote about the life of Abdullah and Amina. Find me one historical report that mentions that Abdullah or Amina prostrated to an idol. Find me one. There is no such thing. What you'll find, I'll tell you what you will find from now. But that's not me telling you to not research. No, go and research. Everything I say on this pulpit, go search after me. Don't take everything I say. Make sure that you understand and you take everything. Write down notes if you need to. Later, go and check. Fact check everything you want to do. And if I have made a mistake, the best thing you can do and the best thing we can do as believers is correct each other and tell me, Ibrahim, maybe this wasn't appropriate. And this I would welcome at all times. But I will tell you what you will find. You will find that specific scholars will mention that they were of individuals that prostrated to idols, but without bringing you historical proof, rather using it as a general statement based on the fact that the area were mushrikeen. Or you will find a story of Abdul Muttalib, and I'm telling you this from now, you'll find a story from Abdul Muttalib that he, after, for example, he digs Zamzam, the Quraysh came and they said to Abdul Muttalib that we want a share in this water that you have just dug. And when he dug it, he also found gold and other things. And he was outnumbered because at the time, Abdul Muttalib was only with his son and he didn't have more children to help him. So you will find that he said in those narrations, "Oh Allah, I ask you that if you give me 10 children, then I shall sacrifice one of them for the idols." This is what you're going to find. That even if you accept this, and that's a whole conversation by itself, even if you accept this, that does not prove that Abdullah prostrated to an idol, nor does it prove that Abdul Muttalib prostrated to an idol. Is this clear, inshallah? And with that, the challenge is open for anyone to go and look into this specific issue. This is from a historical point of view. Again, I am not claiming that from this angle that I have proven that they are believers. No, not at all. But what I am proving is the possibility. Now I come to the logical argument. Now, realize when we come to discuss our aqaidi issues, and I really don't want these talks, lectures, whatever you want to call them, to just be things we hear on the mambar and we go away like something nice was said on the mambar. I really want it to be constructive. So I want to give you a specific tool that I want you to keep with you, inshallah. When we discuss an aqaidi topic, many times you will see that the scholars mention that there is aqli evidence and there is naqli evidence. What is the difference between the two? Aqli comes from aql, which means logic. Evidence based on the intellect. Naqli proof is proof that has been transmitted evidence. Narrations, Quran, this is all transmission text. This is what you call naqli. The question is here, what do we put forward or what do we place first? The aqli proof or do we put the textual proof first? The answer to that is the aqli proof always comes before the textual proof. Tell me, Ibrahim, you're talking about all of these proofs that your hadith, Quran, all of this, the aql you're saying comes before it. I'm not saying it comes before it in the sense that it is more important than the Quran. No, not at all. But when you have a clear logical argument and you have, for example, a narration that we say is dhanni, we are not sure of this narration. It is not certain 100%. Yes, the certain is brought before. Number one. Number two, those naqli proofs that you believed in were based on an aqli proof. You believed in those texts based on a logical argument. So if you want to deny the logical argument without realizing, what you have done is you have denied the textual argument, because the text has no basis anymore. For example, I tell you, prove to me the prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. You're going to tell me, Ibrahim, in the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Muhammadun Rasulullah. Done. So, Habibi, that's no proof at all. Said, prove that he is a prophet. Yeah, in the Quran it says so. The Quran is whose book? Allah's book. No. It's a book that Muhammad came with, and claimed it is from Allah. This is the whole claim I want you to prove to me. So therefore, if he cannot prove his prophethood from an aqli point of view, now this is going to mean nothing to me. Or the other way is to prove the Quran to be the word of Allah through an aqli way, then I can take what is written in the Quran. Realize both routes you want to take, you have to rely on the aqli proof before you can use the textual proof. This is clear, inshallah. Now we come to the aqli proof that we use for this specific issue. Today, if you want to define prophethood, and I know I'm skipping a few parts, but that's just for the sake of time. But if you want to define prophethood, our scholars defined it in the following manner. They said a prophet is a human, هو الإنسان المخبر عن الله, a human who conveys of Allah Azza wa Jal, من دون واسطة أحد من البشر, without the medium of any other human being. There is no intermediary between him, another human rather. There is no human intermediary between him and the Almighty. This is the definition of a prophet. Why is such a definition important? Number one, a prophet is a human that takes away a prophet being an angel, that takes away a prophet being a jinn, for example, and all of the other creations of Allah Azza wa Jal. Conveys from Allah Azza wa Jal. Why? Because that takes away anyone that conveys anything from someone other than Allah Azza wa Jal. Then the fact that there is no other human intermediary between him and Allah Azza wa Jal is vital. Why? Because I, Ibrahim, am conveying from Allah Azza wa Jal. Am I a prophet now? Because I'm human and I'm conveying from Allah. Have I just become a prophet? The answer is no. Based on what? Based on the fact that I am conveying with an intermediary between me and Allah Azza wa Jal. And that was the Quran. That was brought, and the narrations. This is how I am conveying. And this is really what makes the difference between Ali ibn Abi Talib and Rasulullah, especially when understanding that you are not a prophet. In what sense? Ali ibn Abi Talib did not become a prophet. He has an intermediary between him and Allah in conveyance, and that is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So this issue of conveyance, and realize I'm talking about conveyance specifically before someone wants to catch me out on anything, on conveyance specifically. So therefore, on the issue of conveyance, you find that this definition is what applies. This definition is definition of a prophet. Why? This is what you require for a prophet to successfully guide the people towards Allah Azza wa Jal. This prophet that is guiding towards Allah needs to have specific qualities. As I said, this is a topic within itself. Usually when you study this topic of prophethood, there's a lot of branches to it, and it will take us, not 10 nights of Muharram, it will take more than that. I'm summarizing a lot for you, just for the point I want to take from it. Those qualities that that prophet has must be qualities that help in guidance to fulfill his role. If there are specific qualities to that prophet that makes him stop guidance or that does not draw people towards him, that will be counterproductive. That prophet cannot guide anymore. Don't tell me where is your Quranic evidence, where is your text. I said this is logical proof. Now that prophet now needs to guide. That means that prophet is now, according to our scholars that mentioned these aqli proofs, they are exonerated of anything that would make people feel that they can't relate to them, that makes people feel far away from them, that makes people feel alienated from them. Maybe is the right word to use. This issue is very important. Why? And why is it important for our specific issue? If you can prove to me logically that having disbelieving parents or having polytheists as parents is something that will not make you follow a prophet, then that means that logically that prophet cannot have polytheists as his parents or kuffar as his parents. And this is why there are a lot of scholars that use this specific route. And they said our aqil cannot accept this. Why? Because the norm of society is when you see someone guiding people and you know their father was not a good individual, you will tell people, be careful of this person. Why? Do you not know who his father is? Isn't this a norm of society? And this is what many of the scholars said. This is the clearest of aqli proofs as to why a prophet has to have believing parents. Do you know what effect this has, by the way? Do you know what effect this has? If you accept this aqli proof, and then you come forward and say, actually, it has been proven to me, look at the danger. It has been proven to me that Abdullah or Amina were disbelievers. Do you know what that means? That means you cannot accept the prophethood of Prophet Muhammad. This is the danger when we want to, of course this is an argument that is made by our scholars, but I'm showing you the danger of when we try to make our own rational arguments to come to certain things without the right foundations for these things. Because now you have said that this is aqlan necessary, this is logically necessary for every prophet to have what? To have parents who were guided, who were believers. Otherwise, I cannot be guided by such an individual. That means such an individual who has disbelieving parents is not a prophet. Sayyid Abdullah Shubbar mentions, he says that this is the popular opinion amongst the Shia. Then he said, actually, some have even said that there is ijma' on this, consensus on this aqli proof. Sayyid Abdullah Shubbar himself says, I cannot accept this aqli proof. Why, Sayyidina? He said, because I do not see this to be satisfactory, in the sense that today, if a person is a really good person and their father was a disbeliever, I do not think that the society would not follow that individual based on the fact that their father was a disbeliever. Now, this goes back to a person's aqidah now. Where does it fall? Does it fall under the scholars who said, no, this does have an effect and this is something that will become a limitation for you when you look at the life of any prophet? Do you not believe such a thing and say, no, I cannot actually find aqli proof for this? Then you move, just like Sayyid Abdullah Shubbar did, to the textual proofs. The logical proof is clear now. There are two ways. Either we accept this logical proof and then argument is done. Or we say this logical proof we do not accept, no problem. The possibility is still there, just like in the historical proof. Sayyid Abdullah Shubbar said, the textual proof is enough for me. We move to the textual proof. So far everyone's with me, yes, inshallah? Ya Allah. The textual proof is the verse that we started with, or rather the two verses that we started with. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alladhi yaraka hina taqum. The one who sees you when you arise. وَتَقَلُّبَكَ فِي السَّاجِدِينَ. And your movement amongst those who prostrate. Now, the general understanding of such a verse is quite clear. And that is why even Allama said, the zahir, the general understanding of this verse is very clear. In what sense? In the sense that he sees you when you arise, at night in prayer, or for prayer in general. He said, how did you come to that? He said, because the next verse says, and your movement amongst those who prostrate. So it's mentioning an action of prayer. Therefore, that is talking about rising in prayer. And as for the movement amongst those who prostrate, means your movement amongst your companions in the state of prostration. This is the clear understanding of this verse. And this is probably what the verse is saying. Here is where we need to understand that when it comes to understanding the Quran, it is important for us to understand it through the ones who were a match to the Quran, through the ones who are the walking Quran, through the ones whom the Holy Prophet said, I am leaving behind two weighty things, the book of Allah and my household. Those two will never separate. You will be guided through them. You will never be led astray through them, or if you stick with them. This is why when you want to understand Quran, although Quran has a basic tafsir, if you like, and I don't like using this word, but it has a basic, I want to call it understanding of the verses, there is a deeper tafsir to it. And then deeper than that, there's a deeper ta'wil to it. There are many different levels to understanding a Quranic verse. That is why, even as an example, because this example I know you've all memorized. The thief, the hukum on them is that their hand is cut off, right? Where is the hand cut off from? Ahsant, uncle. May Allah bless you, inshallah. It is cut off from the fingers. Where did you get such a thing from? Imam al-Jawad makes this point in a debate. And he mentions a Quranic verse. And the Quranic verse says what? That إِنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. That the masajid are for who? For Allah Azza wa Jal. So don't call upon anyone other than Allah with him. From this verse alone, how do you even understand that it is from the fingers? How does this even relate to the thief? How does this even relate to such a hukum? Those who were sitting there in the debate, do you think they hadn't memorized the Quran? Do you think they didn't know the verses of the Quran? Do you think they weren't better than many people today in terms of linguistics when it came to the Quran? For it was the language that they were actually speaking at the time fully, on a full-time basis, let's say. They didn't know, they hadn't come across such a verse, but it is because the deeper understanding of this verse was with Imam al-Jawad salawatullah alayh. This is where you understand that the deeper meanings are with them. So a lot of the things that you find, and this is a very simple example that doesn't even have a very deep meaning, if you like, which is just, let's say, one level under what is apparent from the verse. It's easy to explain. So it's important to understand that potentially, or actually, instead of me talking, let's allow the words of Imam al-Baqir to spread through this whole, inshallah. Imam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Imam al-Baqir says, the furthest thing from a human mind is the tafsir of the Quran. The furthest thing from the human mind is the tafsir of the Quran. Why, oh my master? He said, because the start of a verse is about something, and the end of the verse is about something, and the middle of the verse is about something, and the whole verse is about something else. And I want to come, wallah shunu, because I've learnt a few Arabic words, and because I've read a few, I want to come and now perform my own tafsir of the Quran and understand what Allah Azza wa Jal wants from the Quran. And I do not want to rely on the tafsir of the Ahlul Bayt. When Allah Azza wa Jal said in the Quran, لا يمسه إلا المطهرون, no one will understand it except for the purified ones. Not except for the pure ones, إلا الطاهرين, except for the ones who are pure. Al-mutahharun, those who have been purified, and you know who has been purified. Only they can understand what the Quran truly wants. Therefore here, we go back to the purified ones and ask them, what did Allah Azza wa Jal want from those two verses? Now, that is not me to say that Allah didn't want that He sees you when you arise and when you walk amongst the worshippers. No, in fact, we have a narration from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam mentioning this specific issue. That is one of the things it means. But are there other meanings to it? And I tell you, yes. In fact, there is a narration that has been narrated in our books and in their books to the exact same wording. 7 sources in the Sunni books. 7 sources in the Sunni books. And from 2 of our Imams, Imam Al-Baqir and Imam Al-Sadiq, all of those 9 sources in total, let's say, mention the same exact wording, that what it means, what this verse actually means, is that Rasulullah was moving from one loin to another, from Adam all the way to his father, and that is the meaning of تَقَلُّبَكَ فِي السَّاجِدِينَ, moving amongst those who prostrate. You might tell me, what does movement amongst those who prostrate have anything to do with being in his forefathers' loins? I say the answer is very easy. This was a description that Allah gave to his forefathers. Because when a person is in a state of prostration, they are in their closest position to Allah Azza wa Jal. When a person is in a state of sujood, they are in complete submission. In other words, I saw you, O Muhammad, as you moved in those loins from Adam to your father, all of whom are in complete submission to me. This is the meaning that we understand from these verses. Imam Al-Baqir alayhi afdal salati was salam, he actually mentions that both verses he gives a tafsir to them. He says, الَّذِي يَرَاكَ حِينَ تَقُومُ. He says this means the one who sees you when you rise with prophethood. Since Allah Azza wa Jal in this angle is talking to the Holy Prophet before his prophethood, or before he is born rather. This, Allah Azza wa Jal sees you when you rise with prophethood, and as you are moving in the loins of your forefathers, from Adam to your father. This is one. You have other narrations that also prove the same. One of them is a narration from Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. He says, I remained moving from one loin of pure individuals, not from purified loins, from the loins of pure individuals to the wombs of pure women, until Allah Azza wa Jal decided for me to be born from Abdullah, my father. Now, you might tell me, how does this prove your point? How can Rasulullah describe his forefathers and his foremothers as those who are pure if they were polytheists? Because the Quran is very clear. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إِنَّمَا الْمُشْرِكُونَ. Have you memorized it? إِنَّمَا الْمُشْرِكُونَ najis. The polytheists are what? Najis, they are impure. Whereas Rasulullah is saying what? That my forefathers are all what? Pure. And my foremothers are all what? Pure. And this is why it became the consensus of our scholars, even the ones who did not believe in the aqli proof that we have provided, that the forefathers of Rasulullah were all individuals who were pure. In fact, they were all individuals who were monotheists. They were all individuals that believed in Allah Azza wa Jal. And no one doubted that. Actually, some scholars went further. Al-Majlisi went much further than this. And by the way, Al-Majlisi is not a normal scholar. Al-Majlisi is a great scholar. Can you imagine? Wallah, this makes you really wonder. Can you imagine a person who dedicates their life to narrations and the words of the Ahlul Bayt until he produces so many narrations or collects so many narrations that in today's print comes up to 110 volumes of books of narrations? This is not small. Wallah, we don't appreciate our scholars. And then, you have individuals who do not understand the worth of those scholars come and tell you, Bihar al-Anwar has many weak ahadith. Bihar al-Anwar has this. Leave that to the side. It has weak ahadith, doesn't have weak ahadith. Leave that all to the side. Look at the individual who lived his life around the words of the Ahlul Bayt. But then today, a weak hadith, no scholar, there is no scholar in this world, or at least in our current usuli world, let's say, that says a weak hadith you throw in the bin. There is no such thing. There is no such opinion. Even the weak ahadith help in aiding the strong ahadith in understanding them. So let us not now take the role of scholars in understanding what a weak hadith is, when we haven't even understood what the meaning of a weak hadith is. All a weak hadith is, by the way, is that even if there is one person, imagine a chain of 13 narrators, there is one narrator within the chain of 13 that, for example, was not thiqah, was not trustworthy, that classifies as a weak hadith. Khalas, done. Now it's up to the scholars to come and decide if this hadith they want to take or not. Regardless, that's not my topic. I've gone on a tangent here, I apologize. Al-Majlisi, the one who lives with narrations, comes and makes a very interesting statement. He says, no. The forefathers of the Prophet were not just monotheists. He says all of them were vicegerents of Allah Azza wa Jal, either prophets or awliya of prophets. All of them. Now, that is not me making the claim that they are this. I say this is the words of Allam al-Majlisi. Not everyone agreed on this specific point. A lot of scholars didn't take this opinion, and I'm not here to promote such an opinion, but I want you to understand the point to which the scholars reached in understanding the forefathers of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And this is the reality that you find from the narrations that Rasulullah did move from one pure loin to another. In fact, there's a proof that you all know, that you have all memorized. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you all the opportunity to visit Karbala very, very, very soon, inshallah. And stand under the dome of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein and turn around to Aba Abdullah and say to him, أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب والأرحام لم تنجسك الجاهلية ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين, to the end of the ziyarah. I bear witness that you are a light in the pure wombs, and you are a light, a light in the pure loins. أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة, and the purified wombs. The Jahiliyyah did not impurify you with its impurities. Hussein is the son of who? These are the forefathers of Hussein or not? From the father's side and from the mother's side. They are the forefathers of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. So even here you have the Imam al-Sadiq, peace and blessings be upon him, proving the same exact thing in the ziyarah of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. So let us understand our textual proof is strong. And by the way, just as a general thing, it isn't every single Sunni opinion that the forefathers of the Prophet were disbelievers. This is important to keep in mind. In fact, there are a lot of Sunnis that do not accept such a thing. This was promoted by Ibn Taymiyyah and his likes later. Why? God knows why. Wallah, only Allah knows why. But this is a reality. In fact, we have a narration. Wallah, this narration is one worth pondering over. There is a narration narrated in two of our greatest books. This narration is narrated in Al-Kafi, and this narration is narrated in Man La Yahdaruhu Al-Faqih. Two amazing books mention such a narration. Before someone wants to come tell me weak narration, Allah, this is the strongest of the strong bad. Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he says, Allah Azza wa Jal created me and Ali ibn Abi Talib from one nur. 2,000 years before the creation of Adam. And we were performing tasbih on the right side of the arsh, of the throne of Allah. until he created Adam, he placed me and Ali as one nur in the loin of Adam. Then we kept moving from one prophet to another until we went onto the ship with Nabi Allah Nuh, and we were thrown into the fire with Nabi Allah Ibrahim, and we continued to move from one loin to another until we reached the loin of Abdul Muttalib. Allah split us into two lights, one to the loin of Abdullah and the other to the loin of Abu Talib, and then he chose for us two names of his names, for he is Al-Mahmud and I am Muhammad, and he is Al-A'la and he is Ali. Do you want clearer narrations than this? Do you want clearer narrations than this? Wallah, these narrations are there for you to see. And these narrations are clear as day. They don't even realize. I mentioned the narration, I don't even need to explain it to you. There's no need for explanation. It is clear as day. Those are the forefathers. In fact, let me ask you a question. I need to be wary of time. Let me ask you a question. Forgive me, I might go over time a bit today. May Allah bless you. Can a disbeliever be a gateway to your needs? Can a disbeliever be a babul hawa'ij? Can a disbeliever be the one whom for their sake Allah Azza wa Jal answers your dua? Yes or no? I can't hear you. Yes or no? Don't be shy. No? I will prove to you through this point that Abdullah and Amina were most definitely not disbelievers. A narration mentioned by As-Saduq, I believe, and it has also been mentioned by Sheikh Al-Tusi. That is definite. Sheikh Al-Tusi and one other scholar said what comes to mind is Sheikh Al-Saduq or Al-Kulaini, one of those. But Al-Tusi definite, and the other is either Al-Kulaini or Al-Saduq. What do they mention? They mention that a person came to Imam Al-Sadiq and he had a specific need that needed to be fulfilled. And it is something that he needed to be done immediately. Imam Al-Sadiq said to that companion, he said to him, go to the Kaaba and perform a tawaf around the Kaaba or circumambulate the Kaaba in the name of Abdul Muttalib, and then perform a 2 rak'ah prayer. Then perform another tawaf in the name of Abu Talib and perform a 2 rak'ah prayer. Then perform another tawaf in the name of Abdullah and perform a 2 rak'ah prayer. And then perform another tawaf in the name of Amina and pray a 2 rak'ah prayer. Then perform another tawaf in the name of Fatima bint Asad and pray a 2 rak'ah prayer. The narration says the moment he completed those 5 tawafs, his need was answered immediately. This is not a story from a dream. This is not a these are narrations. These are narrations from the Ahlul Bayt. You have a haja, ask through Abdullah, the father of the Prophet. A thing I want to remind myself of before I inform you. Today, when we are making niyaz is the right word, right? When we are making niyaz, you make niyaz on behalf of who? Maybe Imam Al-Hussein, maybe Al-Qasim today. Maybe you perform niyaz on behalf of, for example, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas or Al-Banin. When is the last time you made a niyaz on behalf of Abdullah, the father of the Prophet? When is the last time you made a niyaz on behalf of Abu Talib, Amina, Fatima bint Asad, Abdul Muttalib? These are individuals we need to remember. And something that I will remind you of, that I have applied in my life, so I'm not just giving you things that are nice to say on the mimbar. No, I have applied this. Even when you are sitting alone with your family, you're going to have lunch, you're going to have dinner. When you are having that lunch and dinner, why has it been placed on the sufra without a name mentioned with it? Place it on the sufra and say, today we will be eating in the name of Abdullah, in the name of Abu Talib. And look at the barakah that will come from that food. What kind of barakah are you starting to eat now? When that, even what you are cooking at home, niyaz, doesn't have to be things you give out on the street or something you give out in, for example, at the door of the masjid or the door of the Husayniyah. No. At home make your niyaz. At home make something in the name of someone like them. One of the things that I do not like to do is to cut my topic because it will make you lose your train of thought. But while we are all gathered here, I have been requested to speak about something very quickly. And I think now I have everyone's attention, inshallah. I am in no position to advise anyone. So this is not advice. This is a reminder. And I am reminding myself before I remind you. And wallah, when I say this, I'm being genuine. Wallah al-azim. We, the followers of the Ahlul Bayt, are followers of an individual who was so wary of his surroundings and was so wary of those who could be affected by every little action that he performs. And that is none other than Rasulullah. And we are followers of a lady like Fatima al-Zahra, who says, Al-jar qabla ad-dar, your neighbor before your own house. And we are followers of a man by the name of Ali ibn Abi Talib, who on his deathbed informs Imam al-Hasan. Can you realize on his deathbed? Informs Imam al-Hasan, and he says, be God wary when it comes to the neighbors. Rasulullah mentioned them so much that I thought he will give them a share in inheritance. My dear brothers and sisters, I'm not talking to the uncles and aunties, not at all. My dear brothers and my dear sisters, when you go out on the street, be wary of the neighbors. That's all I want to say. Today, there is Latom. We finish Latom, we go out, we go to the street. Saf Matam starts after. That is when I've realized most of the conversations happen outside. Just be wary of those who are sleeping at 1 a.m., that have work to go to, that have, for example, they don't understand what we are here for. So let us be a good example. The example for them is just like if we lived next to wal-'iyadhu billah, a place where there is music, for example, and people left that area, we would be annoyed at 1 a.m. Why are they going out and talking in this manner? For them it is the same. They don't understand why we are here. So let us be a good example to this message, inshallah, and forgive me for overstepping. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Uncle, do you give me permission to go over time 5 more minutes, please? May Allah bless you, inshallah. I want to be academic with you. When I say I want to be academic, it doesn't mean I want to be smart. I mean I want to be unbiased. This is what I mean with it. Everything I prove to you is very nice. Historical, we said possibility. Logical, either we accept the proof or we don't, it keeps a possibility. Narrations, textual proofs is clear bad. Agreed? I am ready to demolish all of that. The Quran speaks against everything we just said. The Quran has a verse in it, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ آزَرَ. What did Ibrahim say to his father Azar, as the Quran mentions? That أَتَتَّخِذَ الْأَصْنَامَ آلِهَةً. Do you really take the idols as what? As gods? إِنِّي أَرَاكَ وَقَوْمَكَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. I see you and your nation to be in great darkness or in clear darkness. You're astray. The Quran speaks against what we said. I say no, don't worry, I'm not going to confuse you today. This is the, if I'm allowed to say, most ridiculous argument that has been brought forward by anyone that did not accept the Iman of Abdullah. And I cannot think that a person who does not believe in the Iman of Abdullah can have logical proof anyway. The Quran is clear as day. And the Arabic language is clear as day. Number one, the Mufassirin differed in the meaning of Azar. Some said Azar is a name, and others said Azar is a description, and others said Azar is an idol. You might tell me, how can it make sense for a description or name is clear? How can idol make sense? I tell you, the verse says, and Ibrahim said to his father Azar, do you take idols as gods? If we say Azar is an idol, the qira'ah would become in this way. And Ibrahim said to his father, Azar, you want to take idols as gods? So it does make sense, right? So Azar could also be what? An idol. Regardless, with all of those different options, I just mentioned what? When we want to understand the Quran, we go to who? We go to the holy household. We go to the people of the Quran. The people of the Quran said that the name of Ibrahim's father, regardless of the verse, is either Tafih or Tafih. So the Ha either has a dot on it or it doesn't. Either Tafih or Tafih. This is the name of the father of Ibrahim. And the father of Ibrahim was a monotheist. And to prove that he is a monotheist is the same exact narrations we used to prove that Rasulullah his forefathers are monotheists. Because Rasulullah goes back through Ibrahim. And realize, by the way, what we have just done through those proofs, I am not making the claim that I proved to you that every prophet has forefathers who are monotheists if you don't accept the logical proof. No, I'm speaking about the Prophet specifically. The Prophet goes through Ishaq, he goes through Ibrahim to Adam. This is definite and there is no argument about it. You might tell me, so how do we then deal with this fact that he said to his father, Abi Azar? The answer to that is very simple. And this doesn't require us to open a million texts. Ab in the Arabic language is not specific to the father. And there is no one that has made such a claim. Walid, I tell you yes. Walid is either the father or the grandfather from the father's side. Ab can either be the father or it can be the uncle or the grandfather from the mother's side. All of those are ab. So, at least as a potential, this could either be his uncle or his grandfather from his mother's side. Especially when we know that Azar is not the name of his father. The ahadith of the Ahlul Bayt mentioned that here قال لي أبيه is what? His uncle. And Azar was the uncle of Ibrahim. And there is no difference of opinion on this in the school of the Ahlul Bayt, peace and blessings be upon them. This is important for us to keep in mind. Realize, by the way, this concept of Ab and Ibn between uncle and nephew is used many times. Of them is in the ziyarah of Ali al-Akbar. In one of the ziyarat, you say, Assalamu alayka ya ibn al-Hasani wal-Husayn. Peace be upon you, O son of Hassan and Hussein. Ali al-Akbar was the son of Imam al-Hassan. We know for a fact Ali al-Akbar was the son of Imam al-Hussein. What do you say though? Assalamu alayka ya ibn al-Hasani, son of Hassan and Hussein. Because this was normal to use the Ab and the Ibn between the uncle and the nephew. And on the day of Ashura, Imam al-Hussein used a similar language with al-Qasim. Imam al-Hussein said to al-Qasim, Bunay Qasim, my son Qasim, Azza wallah ala ammika an tad'uh fala yujibuk. It is hard upon your uncle. Look, son O Qasim, it is hard upon your uncle that you call him but he does not respond to you. Or he responds to you but his response is of no benefit to you. This is the manner in which he talks to him. This is the manner in which he talks to Al-Qasim. Do you know why he talks to him in this manner? The maximum age Al-Qasim was when Imam Al-Hassan was poisoned was 3 years of age. That means he lived with Imam Al-Hussein for 10 years. And those 10 years, Al-Qasim wasn't just like a nephew that became a son. No, Al-Qasim became an amana from Imam Al-Hassan. And that is why when Al-Qasim asks for permission to enter the battlefield, Imam Al-Hussein says to him, I promised your father that I will take care of you. Al-Qasim says to him, Uncle Aba Abdullah, I promised my father that I will represent him on a day when you are alone with no supporters. On Ashura, Hussein stood all alone. His companions had fallen one by one. At that point, even Al-Akbar had gone. So came to his aid Qasim, the son of Hassan. He said to him, Uncle Aba Abdullah, I promised my father that I shall represent him on this day. He said to him, nephew Qasim, if that is the case, then how do you see death? He said to him, Uncle Aba Abdullah, in defending you, it is sweeter than honey. Ajarakumullah, this amana from Imam Al Hassan. What does Imam Al Hussein do with him? The narrators mention that he embraced Al Qasim and they began crying together until they fell unconscious to the ground. When they woke up, he took him to a tent that he named Khaymatul Hasanul Masmoom, the tent of the poisoned Hassan. He opened a box, he made Al Qasim wear the clothing of Imam Al Hassan. Then he said to him, go bid farewell to your mother, go and bid farewell to your aunt Zainab. The narrators mention when he entered the tent wearing the clothes of Imam Al Hassan, the moment Zainab saw him, she cried out, Wa Hasana! Is this my brother Hassan that I am seeing in front of me? And that is when Ramla would come and embrace her son. Oh, mothers who are with us today, can you imagine your 13-year-old son bidding you farewell, knowing that this is his definite death? But in what state does he bid farewell? Thirsty, a dry mouth and dry lips. No mother can handle such a scene. Now imagine he says to her, oh mother, I am going to die in my youth. Whenever you remember youth, remember my youth. Oh mother, I am going to die thirsty. Whenever you see water, remember my thirst. Al Qasim would enter the battlefield bravely while chanting, In tunkiruni fa'ana najlu al-Hasan, Sibtu al-Nabi al-Mustafa wal-Mu'taman, Hadha Husayn kal-Asir al-Murtad, Bayna unasin la suqu sawb al-Muzan. I am Qasim, the son of Hassan, the grandson of the trusted prophet. This is Hussein, like a captive prisoner between people. May Allah never grant you mercy. He would remind them of the strength of his father and grandfather until a cursed man would say, by Allah, I will make his uncle weep over him today. He was looking for a chance to attack. Al Qasim was fighting until his sandal would break loose. At that time, it was not appropriate for a man to walk barefoot. This is the son of Hassan. This is the son of Ali. This is the son of Fatima. The son of Muhammad said, I shall never walk barefoot. He would bend down to fix his sandal. Ajarakum Allah. He would approach Al Qasim and he would strike him with the sword on that. أيوة قاسمة وسيدة. Al Qasim would fall to the ground while calling عم يا حسين أدركني. I Uncle Hussein, come to my aid. Imam al-Hussein would rush, but he went into another direction. They said to him, oh Aba Abdullah, Al-Qasim's voice is here. He went in another direction. He said, I know, I am going to avenge for his blood before I attend him. He kills his killer. He comes to Al-Qasim. I want you to focus with me. When you read the ziyarah of Al-Qasim, what do you read? You see that when Imam Al-Hussein attended by Al-Qasim, try and think of this. It says that he found Al-Qasim يفحص برجليه التراب. Do you know what that means? He was kicking the sand with his feet. When you want to come and slaughter an animal as it is bleeding out, it starts to kick. This is the manner that Hussein found Al-Qasim. And that is when he would call out, oh my son Qasim, it is difficult for your uncle that you call him, but he does not respond. Or he responds, but it is of no benefit to you. Oh my son Qasim, imagine in his last breath, what does he hear from Imam al-Hussein? He says, my support is also few right now, oh Qasim. He remains by Al-Qasim Ajarakumullah until his soul departs this world. With this final scene, and I want to ask for your dua. Imagine this. Imam al-Hussein carries Al-Qasim back to the tents. Imam al-Hussein is known for his height. Imam al-Hussein is known for his strength. Al-Qasim is 13 years of age. Imam al-Hussein places his chest on his chest. And although Imam al-Hussein was much taller than Al-Qasim, they would mention that the feet of Al-Qasim were dragging on the ground. Aywa Husseina, wa Sayyida, how did it break your back in this manner? Aywa Qasima, wa Sayyida.
लाशा क़ासिम का नजर आया, हसन याद आए। लाशा क़ासिम का नजर आया, हसन याद आए कि उस घड़ी रोए बहुत, उस घड़ी रोए बहुत, शह को हसन याद आए। लाशा क़ासिम का नजर आया, हसन याद आए। अरे हाय क़ासिम ना तेरे टुकड़े बदन के होते, हाय क़ासिम ना तेरे टुकड़े बदन के होते, रो के सीने से लगाया तो हसन याद आए। लाशा क़ासिम का नजर आया, हसन याद आए। और टुकड़े क़ासिम के चुने और अबा में डाले, टुकड़े क़ासिम के चुने और अबा में डाले, बांध कर लाशा उठाया तो हसन याद आए, लाशा कासिम का नजर आया। अरे हाय शबीर जो कासिम का जनाजा लाए, हाय शबीर जो कासिम का जनाजा लाए, जख्मी तीरों के जनाजे में हसन याद आए, लाशा कासिम का नजर आया, हसन याद आए, लाशा कासिम का नजर आया, हसन याद आए, लाशा कासिम।
सदावा कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवा तू सदावा कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवा तू सदावा कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवा तू सदावा कासिम नहीं आना ना रोंदियां अखियां हाय चलन हवावां धरतियां कासिम दे होए टुकड़े जिवें बिखड़ियां फुल दियां पत्तियां इंज पुत्तर न वेखण मावां इंज पुत्तर न वेखण मावां कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवात सदावां 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 कासिम नहीं आना बर्बादियां रोंदियां अखियां है चलन हवावां धरतियां कासिम दे होए टुकड़े जिवें बिखड़ियां फुल दियां पत्तियां इंज पुत्तर न वेखण मावां इंज पुत्तर न वेखण मावां कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवात सदावां कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवात सदावां कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवात सदावां कासिम नहीं आना ना वेख्या कर हुण रावां ना वेख्या कर हुण रावां कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवात सदावां कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवात सदावां कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवात सदावां कासिम नहीं आना सेरे दे फुल मुरझाए गाने दे रंग बदलाए कासिम दी लाश दे टुकड़े जदों खैमे दे विच आए किता मातम फुप्पियां मावां किता मातम फुप्पियां मावां कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवात सदावां 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 कासिम नहीं आना सेरे दे फुल मुरझाए गाने दे रंग बदलाए कासिम दी लाश दे टुकड़े जदों खैमे दे विच आए किता मातम फुप्पियां मावां किता मातम फुप्पियां मावां कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवात सदावां कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवात सदावां कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवात सदावां कासिम नहीं आना ना दे फरवात نادي عليا عليا يا علي نادي عليا عليا يا علي علي بادشاہ جن و بشر یا علی آپ کے فرزند حسین غریب کشتہ خنجر کے پدر یا علی بادشاہ جن و بشر یا علی علی ناد علیاً علیاً یا علی
مائی ہے بحال پریشان حسینہ اے نور نظر فاطمہ کی جان حسینہ اے نور نظر فاطمہ کی جان حسینہ مائی ہے بحال پریشان حسینہ اے نور نظر فاطمہ کی جان حسینہ اے نور نظر فاطمہ کی جان حسینہ مائی ہے پریشان حسینہ ان ظالموں نے آئے تجھے پیاسا ہی مارا لوٹا گیا پردیس میں گھر آئے حسینہ اے نور نظر مائی ہے پریشان حسینہ بھوکے رہے پیاسے رہے دریا کے کنارے 10ویں کو گلا تیرا کٹا ہے حسینہ اے نور نظر حال پریشان حسینہ بھوکے رہے پیاسے رہے دریا کے کنارے 10ویں کو گلا تیرا کٹا ہے حسینہ اے نور نظر فاطمہ کی جان شان حسینہ جنت سے بوکا کرتی ہوئی فاطمہ آئی سر پیٹ کے یوں کہنے لگی ہائے حسینہ اے نور نظر تم فاتحہ شربت سے دلانا میری بہنا زینب میری بہنا دکھیا میری بہنا زینب تم فاتحہ شربت سے گر بعد میرے پانی میسر تمہیں ہوئے پہلے تم سکینہ کو پلانا میری بہنا زینب میری بہنا دکھیا میری بہنا زینب میری بہنا دکھیا میری بہنا تم فاتحہ شربت سے مقتل کی طرف سے تمہیں لے جائیں گے ظالم پیاری کو علمدار نہ دکھانا میری بہنا زینب میری بہنا دکھیا میری بہنا زینب میری بہنا دکھیا میری بہنا تم شربت سے جب چھٹ کے قید سوئے وطن جائی و زینب صغرا کو سینے سے لگانا میری بہنا زینب میری بہنا دکھیا میری بہنا زینب میری بہنا دکھیا میری بہنا تم فاتحہ شربت سے
भैया हमारा कोई नहीं, लाशे पे ज़ैनब रो के पुकारी, भैया हमारा कोई नहीं, लाशे पे ज़ैनब रो के पुकारी। हाँ देखो ए भाई मैं ज़हरा की जाई, लाशे पे आई हूँ बेपर्दा होकर, मारा गया है अब्बास गाजी, कासिम दुलारा कोई नहीं, लाशे पे ज़ैनब रो के पुकारी, भैया हमारा कोई नहीं, लाशे पे ज़ैनब रो के पुकारी, भैया हमारा। देखो ए भाई मैं ज़हरा की जाई, लाशे पे आई हूँ बेपर्दा होकर, मारा गया है अब्बास गाजी, कासिम दुलारा कोई ही, लाशे पे ज़ैनब रो के पुकारी, हमारा कोई नहीं, लाशे पे ज़ैनब रो के पुकारी, हमारा बेकस यतीमों का काफिला भाई, तू ही बता दे कहाँ लेके जाऊं, लाशें संभालूं या कुंबे को देखूं, गम का किनारा कोई नहीं, लाशें पे ज़ैनब रो के पुकारी, भैया हमारा कोई नहीं, लाशें पे ज़ैनब रो के पुकारी, ज़ख्मी है और प्यासा है राजदुला ज़हरा का, ज़ख्मी है, जवाब जवाब, राजदुला अकबर व कासिम कोई नहीं, आस बंदे तो किससे बंदे, दरिया छीनने वाला भी दरिया छीन के सोता है, राज दुलारा ज़हरा का, ज़ख्मी है और प्यासा है, राज दुलारा ज़हरा का, ज़ख्मी है। कल जो नबी के दोष पे था, आज वो सर है नेज़े पर, एक ज़माना ऐसा था, एक ज़माना ऐसा है, आज दुलारा ज़हरा का, ज़ख्मी है और प्यासा है, राज दुलारा हाँ मौत ये तेरी कैसी थी, मरने वाले तेरे लिए, मजलिस बस्ती बस्ती है, मातम सहरा दुलारा और प्यासा है, नन्ना मेरा असगर कहाँ गया रे, नन्ना मेरा असगर कहाँ गया रे, ढल गया सूरज शम्मा जली, नन्ना मेरा असगर, रात अंधेरी सुनसान बल, ढूंढूं कहाँ तुझे गुल बदल, रो रो पुकारी माँ दिल जली, नन्ना मेरा असगर
गली नन्ना मेरा असगर कहाँ गया रे ढल गया सूरज शम्मा जली नन्ना मेरा असगर तेरी ज़मीं पर ए करबला गुम हो गया है बच्चा मेरा ढूंढ रही हूँ गली गली नन्ना मेरा असगर कहाँ गया ढल गया सूरज शम्मा जली नन्ना मेरा असगर कहाँ गया रे ढल गया सूरज शम्मा जली नन्ना मेरा असगर ये तो बता दे ए हुरमला चीदा है क्यों तूने नन्ना गला खून में डूबी नन्ही कली नन्ना मेरा अब तो जरा खेमे में आओ गाजी अब तो जरा खेमे में आओ अब तो खेमे में आओ गाजी अब तो जरा असगर को पानी पिलाओ टुकड़े हुए तेरे मश्को अलम के कुर्बान है तेरे बाजू कलम के ज़ैनब को बाजू दिखाओ गाजी अब तो जरा अब तो जरा खेमे में आओ गाजी अब तो जरा मशके सकीना खाली पड़ी है अम्मू की लाडली ढूंढ रही है प्यारी को तुम ही सुलाओ गाजी अब तो जरा खेमे में आओ अब तो जरा खेमे में आओ गाजी असगर को पानी पिलाओ गाजी बच्चों में शोर है पानी पिलाओ अब्बास गाजी मैदान से आओ प्यासों की प्यास बुझाओ शिया बेज़ंजार दर सिफ्ते पैगंबर रज़ा व माता शिया बेज़ंजार दर सिफ्ते पैगंबर दरिन अज़ा व माता बेनवा हुसैना सरजुदा हुसैना भी अकरुबा हुसैना जवाब ज़ैनब नाचार ए आबिद बीमार ए सुके नाजार अली अकबर लैला नूरे चश्मा लैला महे अनवर लैला अली अकबर लैला नूरे चश्मा लैला महे अनवर लैला अली अकबर लैला नूरे चश्मा लैला महे अनवर लैला है तेरी शादी रचाऊं, तुझे दुल्हा बनाऊं, यही उम्मीद लैला। अली अकबर लैला, नूरे चश्मा लैला, माहे अनवर लैला। है मेरी गोद का पाला, लगा जुल्म का बाला, यही दर्द है लैला। हुसैन तिश्ना लमकुम शहीद करबला रा, शिमरे मकुम रा, शिमरे मकुम जफरा। हुसैन तिश्ना लमकुम शहीद करबला, शिमरे लाई दगारा, खौफ कुनज खुदारा, शिमरे लाई दगारा, खौफ कुनज खुदारा। हुसैन तिश्ना लमकुम शहीद करबला, शिमरे मकुम जफरा, औलादे मुस्तफा, शिमरे मकुम जफरा, औलादे मुस्तफा। हुसैन तिश्ना लमकुम सरे हुसैन मजलूम, जोज बदन जुदारा, सरे हुसैन मजलूम, जोज बदन जुदारा। हुसैन तिश्ना लमकुम शहीद करबला, शिमरे मकुम जफरा, औलादे मुस्तफा, शिमरे मकुम जफरा, औलादे मुस्तफा। हुसैन तिश्ना लमकुम शिमरे मकुम जफरा, औलादे मुस्तफा, शिमरे मकुम जफरा, औलादे मुस्तफा। हुसैन तिश्ना लमकुम शहीद करबला, शिमरे मकुम जफरा, औलादे मुस्तफा, शिमरे मकुम जफरा, औलादे मुस्तफा। हुसैन तिश्ना लमकुम वाहिद। तू है दिल बंदे मुज्तबा कासिम, तू है दिल बंदे मुज्तबा कासिम। उम्मे फरवा का महल का कासिम, उम्मे फरवा का महल का कासिम। सर झुका कर चचा के कदमों में है, सर झुका कर चचा के कदमों में, मांगते रन की है रजा कासिम, मांगते रन की है रजा कासिम। लाशे कासिम की टुकड़े टुकड़े थी है, लाशे कासिम की टुकड़े टुकड़े थी, बोले शेवा मुसीबता कासिम। उम्मे फरवा का महल का कासिम, उम्मे फरवा का महल का कासिम। रोके शे बोले फी अमानिल्लाह, रोके शे बोले फी अमानिल्लाह, जाओ मरने की दी रजा कासिम। उम्मे फरवा का महल का कासिम, उम्मे फरवा का महल का कासिम। यल्ला यल्ला। काश बुलवा लो अपने रोजे पर है। काश बुलवा लो अपने रोजे पर है ये जाकिर कमो दुआ कासिम। उम्मे फरवा का महल का कासिम, उम्मे फरवा का महल का कासिम। तू है दिल बंदे मुज्तबा कासिम, उम्मे फरवा का महल का कासिम, उम्मे फरवा का महल का कासिम। यल्ला यल्ला यल्ला। लाशे कासिम की टुकड़े टुकड़े थी हाय, लाशे कासिम की टुकड़े टुकड़े थी। बोले शेवा मुसीबता कासिम, उम्मे फरवा का महल का कासिम, उम्मे फरवा का महल का कासिम, उम्मे फरवा का महल का कासिम।
يا سيدي يا عباس يا أبو الفضل العباس، يا سيدي يا عباس يا أبو الفضل عباس، ألم دار حسينا يا أبو الفضل العباس، يا سيدي يا عباس يا أبو الفضل العباس، هاي بياس هاي بياس يا أبو الفضل العباس، يا سيدي يا عباس يا أبو الفضل العباس، يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين، محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا رسول الله يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهرة، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، الغريب المذلوم العطشان كربلاء، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان، سيدي الأمان الأمان الأمان. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج، اجعلنا من شيعته وأعوانه والأنصار والمستشهدين بين يدي. والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
اللهم قل لوليك حجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوات.